Welcome to this week's Toonami Pre-Flight. I am Gil Austin.
I'm Jason DeMarco.
And we are here to talk to you about Hellboy animated movies. We're going to take one each in a slight variation of our 40-something week strong policy. We're going to talk about some of our favorite adapted book adaptations. Is that how we phrased it?
I thought about it. Thankfully, people out there got our meaning. But when you say the word book adaptation, you actually think
about
the reverse of what we meant, which you think of
that's a novelization.
Yeah, like
I would say.
Alan Dean Foster's adaptation of Alien or something. But what we meant is your favorite film or television show adapted from a book, or I guess you could technically say comic book.
Right.
In the case of Hellboy. But yeah.
So now you get the through line.
Yeah, the threads, baby. There's layers.
We have a sneak peek of Criminal Threats that Johnny Ray edited. We have a moving pictures by one Jason DeMarco.
It's going to be good.
We'll see. And we have the second part of Steve Bloom's Q&A Bloom Room. So quite the full show. I will go first in Hellboy animated movies.
Sounds good.
And we will talk about Sword of Storms, which is the first of the Hellboy animated movies that we showed. They were going to make 3, right, originally?
I think they were going to make 3, and I'm pretty sure that their hope was that it would turn into a series because it was Warner Brothers backed, as I recall. I think when we weren't really given a choice to show the Hellboy movies, they were sort of like, here, we got these movies. It was part of a barter deal with Warner Brothers, and we were like, all right.
Premiered it. I don't even think you could buy it prior to us showing it. We showed it in October of 2006. Sword of Storms.
Yeah, they premiered on Toonami
because we're the best. And they wanted to.
And somebody made a deal somewhere.
But it's the voice cast, or it's the cast of the movie, and David Hyde Pierce passed on doing the voice of Abe so that Doug Jones would actually be able to speak instead of just move his body around. But it's Ron Perlman as Hellboy and Selma Blair as Liz. The story, this movie's there's not a whole lot to the story, but it's cool. It just feels like a long 30-minute episode. It's like a little over an hour. It opens up in just sort of the middle of this demon fight, and Liz has to use her fire powers that always makes her feel
tired,
weird, and out
every
of control.
time she uses it, they're always like, oh, she's tired. Like, that's the big side effect.
But it seems like if the result is, or the end cause is Hellboy has to go over and give her a hug because he's impervious to flame, wouldn't you just always have her burst everything into flames? Because it seems highly successful as a tactic.
But I guess strategy.
I guess you don't want to wear out your teammate like that. But this is the story behind Sword of Storms. Is there's a old box that shows up at this Professor Sakai's house, and he opens it up and is exposed to an old scroll and possessed by these 2 demons, Thunder and Lightning. And as he's reading the story of what happened, and they're doing the flashback, he gets possessed and has to go search out the Sword of Storms. But basically, long ago, there was a feudal lord, and he was going to sacrifice his daughter to these 2 demons. There was a samurai who was in love with the daughter who fought them off, and the dad his honor was so besmirched that he still sacrificed his daughter anyway. So as the professor's going around and trying to, as these demons, free the sword and actually bring the demons back into life, Hellboy touches the sword and goes into the spirit world and has to sort of fight his way through. I like this movie. I don't love it. It's like not... It doesn't look quite good enough to be amazing, and there's not quite enough story for it to be great.
Who did the promo? Who wrote the promo?
I think Dennis did.
Let's show the promo and then give people a clue at what you're talking about.
Cool.
History is trying to repeat itself, and Hellboy's been cast in the lead role.
Oh, here we go.
Now he must find his way home while warding off an ancient evil. Will the Sword of Storms be his savior or his demise?
Stupid, ugly monkey demon. Me ugly.
Toonami presents the premiere of the animated movie Hellboy, Sword of Storms, tonight at 9:30. That's all about the demons. Watch The Right Hook. Only Toonami on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, I mean, the voice cast is so good in it that they carry it along, and it's Hellboy, so it's cool. But I just wish they had done
for Hellboy
more
fans
with
only.
it. Yeah, right. That's probably true. But so then we ran Blood and Iron the following year. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a year later, 2007. So I think that these came through Warner Brothers. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right.
And I think they were bridging content between, when did The Golden Army come out, the Hellboy second live action movie? So I thought that's what these were, is sort of like leading up to The Golden Army.
Yeah, it was 2009, I want to say.
So I think they were hoping these would do better than they did, and then they eventually just moved on. So I'm going to talk about the second Hellboy movie we ran in 2007, Hellboy Blood and Iron, which, at least by reviews, is the more well-regarded of the two movies. It's pretty good. It
feels more like...
I mean, it's more... There's
more of a Hellboy story as opposed to just a Monster of the Week.
It's based off of one of the Hellboy graphic novels, and it's much more of a horror than an action. In fact, there's a scene with a vampire sort of queen that they're hunting down, and where she bathes naked in a bathtub full of the blood of virgins.
So perfect for Cartoon Network.
She steps out of the bathtub dripping with blood. Like, it's like pretty. I remember when we were airing these, they were TV-14, and it was a big deal at the time for us to be airing a TV-14 thing. And it was like there were all these special concessions that had to be made. But because they almost didn't air in Toonami because they wanted to air them in the middle of the night or something, some sort of barter deal. It's not a bad movie. It basically concerns an old enemy of what's the professor's name? The doctor.
Oh,
Hellboy's dad, essentially. Anyway, that he encountered in the 30s, a vampire that he put down. She's come back, and she's been reanimated with the help of the goddess Hecate. And so the goddess Hecate basically pairs off where it's the professor versus the vampire and the goddess Hecate versus Hellboy. And it's just sort of a suspense haunted house movie, and then turns into a really dark sort of action thriller. And it's not bad. It's sort of, I think in adapting Mignola's style, they sort of ended up at this middle ground that looks more like Batman the Animated Series. But Batman the Animated Series made that style look good, and this just looks kind of cheap. I think the story of Hellboy Blood and Iron is stronger, but the animation is better in Storm of Swords, because I think they were trying to be like, it was the first one out of the gate. But neither one, to me, is super impressive. They're just sort of, if you like Hellboy, they're a cool hour and 15-minute thing, but they're not really memorable, and
they're not going to win anybody over, probably.
Yeah, they don't do much new things with the characters or anything. They're just a cool little, like, here's some more Hellboy. But like, I think they could have done a better job. I think the Amazing Screw-On Head, that animation is Mignola, and it looks amazing. So I think you could adapt his animation well. I just think they put it through that major Warner Brothers assembly line type thing, and everybody just thought, well, it's simplified, let's make it look kind of like Mignola, but it looks like a weird kids version. It's also weird that it sort of looks like a kids cartoon, but you've got naked vampires bathing in blood and some actually horrific, scary stuff. So it's like, it's a little bit of there's a tension there of like, what are you trying to do? Is this for adults or not? Normally I like that, but I think in this case it didn't serve the material. But here's the promo we did for Hellboy Blood and Iron when it aired on Toonami in 2007. I believe this is also Dennis, but I'm not sure. It might be you.
I think I did this one, but I'll have to watch it again and see.
Even the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense has its cushy assignments.
If you ghost, that can't be that bad.
Oh, shut up. But when this mission turns into his biggest fight ever, Hellboy will have to choose between his friends and his life.
You're starting to piss me off.
Toonami presents the premiere of Hellboy, Blood and Iron, next Saturday at 7. One-liners and one big fist. Then stick around for a new Naruto at 9. Only Toonami on Cartoon Network.
That was 23/7.
That was the
and Conan's got booted.
Yeah, and Conan's got Tony Denza. That's the situation we were in at the time, where we didn't really want to air the movie. We were doing it because Warner Brothers, I think it was some sort of Warner Brothers deal, and our programming department was so paranoid that people were going to turn the channel. They were like, just put at the end that Naruto's going to come. Or maybe it was Sean. Somebody told us, like, oh, you got to put Naruto at the end. We were like, come on. And I have to say, I was telling Gil, I think his copy was a bit misleading. Hellboy doesn't really have to choose between his friends at all in that thing. He just made that shit up. I don't know that you even watched the movie.
No, that's not true.
I think you watched the first 10 minutes and then made up the rest. Come on.
I'm sure I had the log lines, and I bet I watched the first half hour.
All right. Well, you made an effort. So, Hellboy movies, worth checking out if you're a big Hellboy fan. If you're not a Hellboy fan, I would not necessarily recommend them strongly.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
If you read the Hellboy comics, you like the Hellboy movies, it's definitely that vibe. They nail the vibe of the comics and the movie. If you're not into those things or have never seen any Hellboy stuff, this is not the place to start.
So check it out.
Ringing endorsement. So now on to our question of the week, which is, what's your favorite book adaptation? And again, we mean, what is your favorite movie or film or television show that's been adapted from a book? For this reason, using arbitrary rules that I've created in my head, I chose not to pick movies like Apocalypse Now, which is inspired by Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, but is not really an adaptation of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. So movies that were inspired by literary sources, like anything that, there's a lot of movies that are inspired by Raymond Chandler novels or Shakespeare or whatever. I did not go with those. I went with adaptations of novels. So using that, again, arbitrary designation, my first choice is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I've talked about it before, Blade Runner, which is insanely enough getting a sequel that begins filming in July, starring Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling, and directed by Denis Villeneuve, written by Hampton Fancher, who wrote the script for the original Blade Runner, and it takes place 30 years later, which
it feels horrifying.
Which may or may not put to bed Ridley Scott's bullshit assertion that Deckard was a replicant. Although, if Rachel the replicant had no expiration date, if Deckard was one, maybe he doesn't either. But 30 years later makes me think he's just a human, because he's going to age, and we don't know if replicants age. Well, somebody's probably dealt with it, but not in the novel or the movie. So this is based on the Philip K. Dick novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? They've taken some definite liberties with the book, but it's still an adaptation of the book. The book still concerns a human whose job is hunting down these artificial beings called replicants that are created to do mostly labor. And they've gone rogue. And the book takes place in Los Angeles in the future. I would say the book is not better than the movie, but equally as good in a different way. It's actually deeper. It's kind of more upsetting because it's just existentially sad. But so is the movie. The movie came out in 1984. It's a science fiction classic. If you haven't seen it, you should. I wanted to just show you guys 1 minute of something from Blade Runner that's weird, that I like. So basically, when I need to relax, I love the sound design of Blade Runner so much that there are, and I discovered this I found this randomly and then discovered there's a whole YouTube rabbit hole you can go down of ambient sound from spaceships. You can get 12 hours of ambient sound from the Nostromo, 10 hours of ambient sound from the Enterprise. Like, you can, pretty much any movie you can think of, somebody has looped the ambient background noise of that film, and you can just play that as like your environment. So I found this YouTube link to 1 hour of ambient sound from inside Deckard's apartment. So it's like you can hear the flying cars going by. You hear the sort of hum of the electronics in Deckard's apartment, and you hear every once in a while the blimp telling people that a new life awaits them in the off-world colony. And I listen to this, I've probably listened to it for 100 hours. Like, when I need to focus and I'm not in the mood to hear music, I just put that on in my office. And curiously, I guess Ridley Scott really likes that loop because it's also, if you listen to the ship background of the Nostromo, it's basically the same as Deckard's apartment with a few slight differences. It's also been used in other movies, so it's a pretty common sound design background loop that most people don't know or care about at all, rightfully so, but sound nerds really like. So here's just 1 minute of this. If you like it, just go look up on YouTube 1 hour of ambient sound from Deckard's apartment. So yeah, for me, that is super relaxing. I liked it enough to create an MP3 out of it and listen to it in my car sometimes. I like feeling
soothing.
I like feeling like sometimes I'm going to have to retire some damn replicants.
Yeah, I feel that way every day.
So this is a book adaptation that, to me, the best. Let's get into what we think makes a good adaptation. To me, a good book adaptation nails the spirit of the book. Like completely nails the spirit of the book, but may differentiate itself, it may diverge in terms of a couple scenes, or the characters might not say the exact lines, or they may shuffle even characters. To me, a great adaptation first and foremost must nail the themes and the feel of the novel, which Blade Runner does 100%. So, obviously, everyone who gives a shit about Blade Runner has already seen it, but if you haven't, check it out. I also did a Blade Runner mega mix way back in 1999 that I put up on my Dropbox a couple weeks ago. I will retweet that when we go live. You can go to my Twitter at ClarkNova1, and it'll be there on the day you're watching this, hopefully.
Like magic. Internet magic.
So on to my next choice, which is a very notorious book and a well-regarded movie, American Psycho. Christian Bale plays Patrick Bateman, the American Psycho. The book was written in the 80s by Bret Easton Ellis. It's actually not... See, I think a lot of great movie adaptations of books come from books that weren't that good in the first place. And American Psycho is not a good book. It's an interesting book. It's a crazy satire of 80s corporate greed, basically. It's an incredibly over-the-top satire that's kind of dumb but smart at the same time. It's really, really violent and gory. It's first person, told from the point of view of a psychopath who works on Wall Street and is just going crazy, murdering people. And the longer the book goes on, the more you can't tell if he's hallucinating half of this stuff or any of it's real, because there's all kinds of crazy shit that happens. But Bret Easton Ellis made his name off of this book, and I don't actually think he's that good of a writer, but it's a book that I think many people want to check out at some point because it's so notorious. But
you should just watch the movie because it's better.
The movie actually is way better. It's also a satire, but it gets how ridiculous the whole premise is in a way that the book doesn't. And the movie's a little less mean because I don't think you needed to go as far as the book went. But Christian Bale is awesome. The movie nails the 80s in a way that's perfect. So here is one scene with Patrick Bateman doing something bad to a man that reminds him of himself.
You like Huey Lewis on the news?
They're okay.
Their early work was a little too new wave for my taste. But when Sports came out in '83, I think they really came into their own, commercially and artistically. The whole album has a clear, crisp sound, and a new sheen of consummate professionalism that really gives the songs a big boost. He's been compared to Elvis Costello, but I think Huey has a far more bitter, cynical sense of humor.
Hey, Albert's
Yes, Alan?
Why are there copies of the style section all over the place? Do you have a dog? A little chow or something?
No, Alan.
Is that a raincoat?
Yes, it is. In '87, Huey released this. 4, their most accomplished album. I think their undisputed masterpiece is Hip to Be Square. A song so catchy, most people probably don't listen to the lyrics. But they should, because it's not just about the pleasures of conformity and the importance of trends. It's also a personal statement about the band itself. Hey, Paul! Ah! Start getting a reservation at Dorkin now, you fucking stupid bastard!
So, again, it feels ruthless, but there's not that much gore. You don't see that much happen. It's just all watching him. But also, that's a justifiably famous scene, probably the best known scene from the movie. And here is a hilarious takeoff that was done of that scene.
Do you like American Psycho?
It's okay.
Although originally polarizing to audiences and critics alike, it developed a much-deserved cult following when released on digital video disc, or DVD. There it found a second life and really came into its own commercially and artistically. The movie works both as a grim examination of male vanity while also maintaining real genre thrills, justifying these tonal shifts by placing the audience inside the head of the duplicitous lead character. Christian Bale's dynamite performance gives it a big boost. The role almost went to Leo, but nobody could have brought that certain pathos and charisma to it quite like Bale. A role he later recalled a shade of in Christopher Nolan's Batman pictures.
Hey.
Yes, Al?
Why are there newspapers all over the place? Is that like a Huey Lewis on the news joke or something?
No, Al.
Is that a raincoat?
Yes, it is. In 2005, Lionsgate released this, the uncut version. I think it's an undisputed masterpiece. A movie so entertaining, most people probably don't listen to the message.
Most people probably don't listen to the lyrics.
But they should, because it's not just a great character study, but a sardonic metaphor for 1980s greed and materialism. Hey, Al! Ah! Try parodying one of my songs now, you stupid bastard. I want a new dub.
It's totally corny and hilarious parody that pretty much nails the movie. I don't think I need to say much more about that. So my final choice is the rare example of a classic movie adapted well from a classic book, which is No Country for Old Men, which was directed by the Coens and won the Oscar for Best Picture, I believe, in 2007. It was up against There Will Be Blood, so a lot of competition that year. It's adapted from a book by Cormac McCarthy, who's one of my favorite authors. It is a crime novel, and Cormac McCarthy doesn't really do those that much. So, but it's just a great book. They don't change much in the movie. They change a few things around. They shift a few events. They change a few character names. Nothing major. And they stick to some exact dialogue from the book, and then they have some of their own dialogue. But the rare example of a book that translates really well to the screen in a fairly literal adaptation. And then, of course, the Coens are masters. But so here is, I can't remember if I have a promo or a clip. Here's a clip from No Country for Old Men that gives you just a sense of the vibe, which actually feels just like the vibe of the book. So check it out. One of the best scenes, one of the most tense scenes in the movie. But yeah, awesome movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And a great adaptation. The book is well worth reading. I don't think you'd be disappointed starting at either one. So those are some of my favorite adaptations. Gil?
Those are some of mine as well. Good job. Up first for me is The Godfather, the novel by Mario Puzo. Francis Ford Coppola titled it Mario Puzo's The Godfather because he felt like it was so much like the book that he wanted to give his props. Book came out in 1969 and the movie was in 1972. They've been running the weird supercut on HBO that's like the chronological order of all the movies cut together, but if you haven't seen The Godfather, definitely don't start there and probably don't ever watch that anyway. Yeah. But the first movie, The Godfather, is definitely worth checking out. This is an early scene in the movie that we can watch and then talk more about.
I don't know what to do. My voice is weak. It's weak. Anyway, if I had this part in the picture, you know, it puts me right back up on top again. But this man out there, he won't give it to me. The head of the studio.
What's his name?
Waltz. He won't give it to me, and he says there's no chance. No chance. A month ago, he bought the movie rights to this book, a bestseller. And the main character is a guy just like me. Why, I wouldn't even have to act. Just be myself. Godfather, I don't know what to do.
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you? Is this how you turned out a Hollywood Pinocchio that cries like a woman? What can I do? What is that nonsense? Ridiculous. You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good. Because a man that doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man. You look terrible. I want you to eat. I want you to rest well, and a month from now, this Hollywood big shot's gonna give you what you want.
It's too late. They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. Now, just go outside, enjoy yourself, and forget about all this nonsense. Listen, I want you to leave all to me.
All right.
Yeah?
So I saw the movie before I read the book. I don't know if you had the same experience.
Yeah.
But I think that if you wanted to do either, I mean, it's a really good book and it's an amazing movie.
I disagree.
You don't like the book?
No, I think the book's terrible.
Oh, well, you're wrong.
Read it again. I bet it's been a long time.
I guess that's probably true. I read it in...
When you were 13, probably.
No, when I was probably 18.
Trust me. But we invite the viewers to corroborate either of our points of view.
But the book goes into more character detail, but the movie is, I would say, definitely better.
Just whether at what degrees.
Yeah, but I don't think if you certainly don't ruin one starting in one place than the other. Or you can just watch the movie if you don't like reading books.
I didn't say that.
But that scene is obviously the famous "An Offer You Can't Refuse," and one of the million amazing stories in making the movie is the severed head scene. People freaked out and they were like, "That's a real horse head. You can't do that." And Francis Ford Coppola's like, "No, it's totally fine. We got it from a dog food company. They were going to kill that horse anyway." And in the 70s, that was
an acceptable
"Oh, okay,
answer.
good, thanks."
Oh, cool. It was going to the glue factory anyway.
But not an indictment of the movie. So an amazing movie, good book, I would say. Up next for me is Lonesome Dove, which was...
It's you and me.
Yeah. Which one are you?
I guess I'd say...
I think you're Call.
You think I'm more Call? I talk more than Call.
Yeah, but...
You're not really as gregarious as Woodrow, although you are more easygoing.
I think if we were in that time, we would embrace those roles.
Sure.
We've had to put on our mask of sanity.
It means I live longer, so I'm down.
For the modern world. This was originally, and I didn't know this until I was looking it up for this show, but was originally a movie treatment in the 70s that fell through, and then
I didn't know that either.
He wrote the book. Larry McMurtry. McMurtry wrote the book and was...
Larry McMurtry is his lesser-known
it's his cousin. That's he wrote.
He's right. Not
Worrisome Dove.
He wrote Lonesome Pigeon.
This
Lonely Pigeon.
Did you watch it when it came on? I watched it with my dad in '89.
The miniseries that you're referring to?
On TV.
I did not watch it when it came out. I actually didn't. I read the book first because my grandfather read a lot of Larry McMurtry and always told me, "You got to read Lonesome Dove. You got to read Lonesome Dove." So I had it in the back of my mind, and I read it in my 20s. And I read, it's actually 4 books because he wrote Lonesome Dove first, but then he wrote a whole bunch of other.
Chronological. I only ever read Lonesome Dove, and I read it probably significantly. I probably read that in my 20s, and I saw the miniseries when I was
all the
15
books,
or something.
All the books in the series are great. Lonesome Dove is absolutely the best one, but they're all good. But I read that first, and then I don't know. I watched the miniseries on Blu-ray for the first time.
For the collector's edition?
Yeah, my mom loved it. She kept telling me, you got to check it out. You got to check it out.
The promo for the Blu-ray is hilarious because basically the whole promo is like side-by-side reveals of shots, and it's like, look at it. It looks better.
Yeah.
But
it was one of the first TV movies that was basically a film production.
Yeah, and the cast is amazing. Yeah. And was 4 nights, I guess, back when they would do 4-night miniseries of Shogun and whatever.
North and South.
But this is a local TV.
The Thornbirds.
The spot is a national spot, but it's recorded off somebody's Terre Haute TV. But this is the sort of
original TV
the
promo.
Tonight's or the on tonight's episode, but
topical.
For the first, the topical for the first night of Lonesome Dove. So let's check this out.
Tonight, CBS invites you and your family to relive a major television landmark, a testament to the opening of the American West. winner of 7 Emmy Awards, an epic adventure. For the last time on network television, CBS presents Lonesome Dove.
This is Captain Woodrow F. Call. And I'm Captain Augustus McCrae.
They say the both of you were Texas Rangers back in the old days.
They lived by the strength of their words.
Just I ain't no criminal.
Sorry you crossed the line.
Their courage guided the course of a nation.
I don't see why you have to go up to Montana where the Indians cannot fight you.
But I'd like to see at least one more place that ain't settled before I take up the rocking chair.
They say you cleaned the Comanches out and the bandits.
And their story became a legend.
You all right? Hell no, I ain't all right.
I wish we'd never left Lonesome Dove Beach. Too many people already died.
They say you started the first cattle ranch up in Montana.
Sounds like a damn wilderness if you ask me.
Brave men and women driven not to tame the wilderness, but to keep the wilderness from taming them.
It ain't dying I'm talking about. It's living.
One man.
If you want only one thing too much, it's likely to turn out a disappointment.
2 women.
Did you look? Yes, I did.
One filled his life with passion. The other filled his heart with love.
I'm afraid I'm gonna lose you.
One boy.
I ain't kin to nobody in this world.
Facing the trail to manhood alone.
Did you give that boy your name before you left Montana?
I don't know that he is my son.
Starring Robert Duvall, Angelica Houston, Tommy Lee Jones, Diane Lane, Robert Urich, Rick Schroeder, Danny Glover, and Frederick Forrest.
They say you're a man of vision.
Hell of a vision.
America returns to Lonesome.
America returns. Peter Cullen, baby.
Yeah. So I don't know when the last time on TV would have been for Lonesome Dove, but I guess
never. I mean, I don't know why they were doing this promo, but it never stopped. I mean, in cable, I mean, it's been airing.
But I mean, like whatever CBS's last run would have been, but
last time ever.
But yeah, the promo's hilarious. But the movies,
it is 80s. Like the movie has some clunky music selections and some weird like effects, and Frederick Forrest has a really bad nose prosthetic, and he's not Native American, and he's playing a Native American. So
late 80s racism.
Yeah, there's definitely like
white-splaining,
but it's really about Robert Duvall and Tommy Lee Jones are so good that you don't care. And, well, I didn't care.
Right. And then the plot, basically, if you didn't get it from that
it doesn't matter.
promo, is Spencer for Hire shows up and they decide to leave from Texas to Montana, and then everything.
It's one long cattle drive, and a whole bunch of stuff happens. We should keep moving.
So yeah, Lonesome Dove. Would you say read the book?
I would say.
Would it be too tough to watch the movie now, not being a child of the 80s?
I think you should read the book, and it's a huge book. It's 1,000 pages. It won a Pulitzer. It's definitely worth. I think the book is ever so slightly better than the movie, but they're both great. But you should start
little less dated, probably.
Start with the book, and then if you like that, check out the movie.
And up last is probably not
one of the greatest comedies of the last 10 years.
Yeah. But in the interest of tying it back to Toonami, and a book that I enjoyed and a movie I enjoyed is The Martian.
Golden Globe winner for best comedy.
For best comedy. I did like that the director in his speech is like, comedy?
Yeah.
But Fox's marketing direction to us all the way was how hilarious it was.
Yeah. Well.
And the book is fun and the movie is fun, neither of which are comedies. The book is way more...
It's a thriller.
Hard sci-fi tilt with humor interlaced in, and then the movie is, definitely more of a thriller. When we watched the movie, you were like, oh, that's pretty much exactly the book, except they leave out a couple of tense scenes. Mm-hmm. But you don't... They felt... If you told me ahead of time, I would think that would sort of lessen it. But watching the movie, it didn't really, you don't really miss his lack of communication. That's really one of the big things that they take out. And they sort of speed the last bit of the movie up, but not to totally ruin it if you haven't read the book or the movie. But
he dies on Mars.
It's The Last Martian is actually what the name of the book is.
They speed up his death. He's laughing though, so it's funny.
Yeah, so it's he dies. I think he's crying actually, but this is actually the last scene, and you can't tell what he's doing. But so the book came out in 2011 as a self-published novel that you could then get on, I guess, through the Kindle store for like $1. And then he got another publication deal, Andy Weir. Where?
Don't know.
W-E-I-R.
Andy, guy who wrote Martian.
Andy of the Martian fame. Then they published it through a bigger publishing deal, and then the movie came out with Matt Damon. But we did a Toonami promotion for this, and that's what we have is these videos strung together that we did. So let's watch that.
The storm had escalated to severe, and we had no choice but to abort the mission. During the evacuation,
We have to go now.
astronaut Mark Watney was killed.
But he's not dead.
This will come as quite a shock to the entire world, but I'm still alive. Surprise.
But what happens to him now?
Even when NASA finds out he's alive, it'll still take 4 years for them to reach Mars.
Here's the rub. I'm in a hab designed to last 31 days.
We could at least tell them he's okay. Relay the message to NASA?
But how do they get him home? Mark Watney is alive, but stranded on Mars, so his status goes from dead to what now?
I gotta figure out how to grow 4 years worth of food here on a planet where nothing grows.
At least he's staying positive.
So I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this.
Been there, man.
In your face, Neil Armstrong.
Food? Check. What about that ride home?
I know how to save Mark Watney.
Let's go get our boy.
Mark dies if you don't.
So, there's a plan.
NASA is pretty smart, but who's rescue mission to Mars smart?
We either have a high chance of killing one or a low chance of killing 6.
Do you realize how crazy this is?
You'd come back for me if I was left there, wouldn't you?
Well, for Mark Watney, yes. But you're a robot, so it would just be easier to replace you.
What?
Just upload a new OS and boom, new Tom.
No matter what happens, tell the world, tell my family, that I never stop fighting to make it home.
A laugh riot.
Yeah. But I would say probably watch the movie, and if you love the movie and you want to delve a little deeper, then check out the book. Neither is the most amazing example, but both are fun, and the book is a good like beach read. I know you didn't really like the book, but
it was okay. I feel like it was it definitely had the feel of a book that did not have an editor.
Yeah,
it could have been a lot shorter, but it was a fun thriller. I think between the two, I would just say watch the movie. You get the same vibe, and there's not like some amazing sentence construction or anything in the book. That's my personal feeling, but
yeah, they go more into the math and science. But
yeah, it was a nice breezy read.
Yeah, you can read it in 2 days. So let's check out.
That's what you're going for.
Well, I mean, like you can burn through it, like it's a page turner. But it's not
making fun of
an
you.
amazing piece of literature.
That turn of phrase was funny. I'm not making fun of you.
No, that's cool. I don't care what you think.
Oh, cool.
Let's check out some of what you think. Do you like that segue? For the
you do
Adult
care
Swim
what fans think, right?
Facebook, I do.
Okay. Good choices. Oh, some bad ones. Lord of the Rings, of course. Those are great adaptation. Yeah. Harry Potter, I think those depends on which ones, but I think they're pretty solid. Hunger Games. Those movies are probably better than the books, which are trash.
The books are terrible.
The Hitchhiker's Guide is a weird choice because I don't think the movie is bad, but it didn't do a good job of.
Yeah, the book I really like.
And then Fight Club is a great adaptation. That book is actually not.
I don't
very
like
good.
Fight Club the book,
and
but the movie's great.
Way better. Yeah. So good choices from that was the Adult Swim Facebook.
That was. So now let's look at Toonami Facebook.
Let's see what you Toonami fans thought of your favorite.
Which we're going to stretch for a little bit because the graphic is a little slightly behind our speaking. And 2, 1.
Lord of the Rings, Jurassic Park, The Hobbit. Come on, Toonami fans.
The Hobbit movie's terrible.
I know that we're all nerds here, but like. You got to pump the brakes at a certain point. Those movies are terrible.
The crazy thing about Jurassic Park is Jeff Goldblum's character, the scientist who I can't think of now,
dies
in the book.
But he's in the
movie. And then when Crichton wrote the novel,
he's a smart businessman. And
he put him back in the book.
That's he's a smart businessman. He doesn't give a shit. Yeah. Jurassic Park's not a good book at all. I mean, he's not really a good writer. Jurassic Park, the movie, is way better than the book. The Hobbit movies are far worse than the book.
Yeah.
Hunger Games and Harry Potter again. So, I mean, pretty much the choices that you think of when you think of book adaptations
of the last
these days.
Yeah. 5-10 years.
So thanks for voting, guys. Let's move on to our sneak peek of the week, which, as Gil said, is a Criminal Threats promo cut by Johnny Ray. So enjoy this Criminal Threats, which is a returning thing we do every, 4 months or so?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of...
Yeah.
Hey, we haven't done Criminal Threats in a while. Just
a mood piece more than anything else.
It's once we've had a lineup for a while and we want to have not a just straight up music video for a show, but have it grounded in some
there you
sort
go,
of
Toonami fans who wonder, when are they going to do Criminal Threats? Check it out.
We won't be intimidated by criminal threats.
Every Saturday night at midnight, Adult Swim's building you a better cartoon show. We call it Toonami.
I will say this, the faint of heart should stay back.
Who the hell are you? Be ready for action, everyone. I see determination in your eyes.
I will always be victorious, no matter what gets in my way.
Say your prayers!
In my opinion, you are worthless.
You deserve to be impaled.
Eat this! Somebody stop that man!
Incredible. Here we go! You made a mistake messing with me, little girl. I'm gonna eat you alive!
It's unreal!
Nice one!
Your victory will not be the outcome.
Toonami, every Saturday from midnight to 3:30 on Adult Swim.
This is your last warning.
I'll take all you bitches on.
So, excellent promo from Johnny, as always. He's so good at cutting music to action. So check that out. That'll be airing tomorrow in the Toonami broadcast. Do you know when? In the first break?
12:15.
Yeah.
Ish.
And then, so coming up, we have a Moving Pictures, which is a segment in which I, Jason DeMarco, review an animated film that I haven't seen, thus far anyway, one that I haven't seen. That was
never seen?
That was suggested to you guys suggested to me by you guys. So, Short Piece is it's a anthology film that I checked out, and here's my review. Oh, and before we go to the review, we used the sub in this promo because somehow when we converted the video, the dubbed version wouldn't work for us, but it is available dubbed. I watched it dubbed. However, this clips you're going to see in this review are the sub, just for anyone who's curious. Hey there, Toonami faithful. This is your friendly neighborhood DeMarco. I am here to do another installment of Moving Pictures. And by the way, I'm inside the VO booth where a lot of voiceover is recorded for Adult Swim shows because it's a quiet area where I could do this thing. So, little inside stuff. I decided to do the movie Short Piece, which is an anthology film, 4 animated shorts from 4 different directors. Very much in the vein of other anime anthologies. If you guys have seen Neo Tokyo or Memories, The Animatrix, or Robot Carnival, there's a tradition of great anime compilations. And what's weird is they don't seem to be too popular over on this side of the pond. A lot of the ones I mentioned still aren't on Blu-ray or aren't streaming or are just hard to find. So Short Piece is a new one. It came out in 2013. A couple different studios got together to make it. I don't know why it's called Short Piece. I mean, I guess because it's a short piece, but it's spelled P-E, like each one's a short piece, but it's spelled P-E-A-C-E, like peace. It's not really about peace, though. And basically, the through line is stories about Japan. So it's like the broadest possible thing to tie them together. And then there was a tie-in video game, which is crazy to me. I haven't played the game, but evidently it was released with a video game. So the 4 different stories sort of move forward in time. So the first story is about a wandering Ronin who ends up spending the night at a shrine, and it's filled with all these old umbrellas, and basically the umbrellas come to life, and then he ends up fixing them, so it's like these spirits of umbrellas. It's very strange, but the technique is really awesome. They use this hybrid sort of CGI fabric animation technique, and it just looks utterly incredible. It's a little on the sillier side, and it's just pretty abstract. There's not much story to it, and that's one of the shorter ones. But yeah, don't let me near an umbrella, because if some umbrella is attacking me, I am kicking that umbrella's ass. The second story is sort of looks like an ancient Japanese wall scroll or like watercolor, like it's The technique is amazing. It's about a young man who wants to be a firefighter, but his family finds it a disgraceful occupation, and he's in love with a young woman who's promised to someone else, and she purposefully starts a fire. Well, it's like sort of on purpose, not on purpose, and it's basically just the fire engulfs the whole town. It's sort of not giving anything away, but it's very much just a little bit of a tragic love story. And the third story is also a totally different experimental kind of animation. It's basically a village where children are being kidnapped and killed, and they think that it's this polar bear. Duh, bears. In fact, the polar bear is a good spirit who's fighting this demon, and the demon is what's taking the children. So it's about the polar bear and the town and this little girl all teaming up to battle the demon, and it's basically one long action sequence with amazing, gorgeous animation. It's really gory, so it's more of like Japanese folklore type thing, and it's pretty wonderful. And then the last story is we fast forward way into the future, and it's in a post-apocalyptic wasteland Japan, and it's based on a manga by Otomo, who did, of course, Akira. And it's very Pat Labor-esque. It's about a military group hunting down a robot that is patrolling the, formerly what was Tokyo. It's very, very much about the pointlessness of war. It's sort of a satire, and it's pretty violent. I think it's probably the longest story. It's very dry in the way that Pat Labor is dry, like it's true science fiction. The mech designs, the ship designs are amazing. And there's a lot of great humor. And it definitely has a pointed sort of anti-war message. So I would say that story closes out the collection really strongly. So I think this short piece is available. I don't know if it's available streaming anywhere, but I know that it's available on iTunes and you can buy the Blu-ray, and it looks utterly gorgeous. So if you like compilations, if you like just animation for animation's sake and experimentation in animation, it's a great movie. Check it out, and thank you guys for the suggestions, and keep them coming, and I'll be back with another edition of Moving Pictures soon. Thanks.
Nice. I did think it was piece, like a piece of...
Yeah, I don't understand the name. Apparently the through line was just supposed to be stories about Japan. So, I don't know.
Cool.
But yeah, check it out. And finally, to wrap this episode up, we have part 2 of our Q&A. You guys asked Steve Bloom a bunch of questions, and he answered them. This is part 2. Uh-oh. Part 2 of the...
Must be 10:40.
Part 2 of the... You see what kind of bullshit we have to put up with here? All right, anyway, let's go to part 2 of the Bloom Room.
Welcome back to the Bloom Room for part 2 of the Q&A. Thanks again, you guys, for submitting your questions. I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. Here we go. @MangaMan9000 asks, what's your favorite role from a show or game that never quite took off or made it big? Probably Magus XLR, the role of Jamie. I just love Magus, and it didn't go anywhere. That show probably got less support than anything I've ever worked on. And it was really an homage to everything that all of us love. It was really a love letter to the genre of anime. And it was funny, and it was smart, and it was silly and ridiculous, and had all of the elements that all of us love so much about anime. And the network just didn't know what to do with it, I think. And so it was ahead of its time. So I really hope at some point Magus XLR comes back. I miss working on that show, and it was a great cast, too. @BaseForever GAF asks, do you think you play a better hero or a better villain? Hopefully I do pretty well at both, because I do a lot of both. I can't really say that I play a better one of either. It's really in the writing and the direction for me. If a character is written well and developed well, it gives me a lot to work with. So, I don't know, villains are super fun just because it's sort of cathartic, and I get to do things as a villain that I wouldn't get to do in my normal daily life. Not that I'm heroic by any means in my daily life, but being good is more of what I do. But getting to play a hero can be great too, especially working on kids shows. It's really gratifying. Working on something like Transformers Rescue Bots and playing Heatwave on that, I get a lot of fan mail from little kids who are moved by that and hopefully in a positive direction. So that can be just as much fun too. And you guys know how I feel about villains. At Luna_Bianca asks, how different do you think your life would be if you never got into voice acting? I kind of know the answer to that because I've had a lot of careers before voice acting. And I've always done something creatively. I was in film business before this. And it really is all the same to me, honestly. It's being creative in whatever form that takes. This was probably the most creative form that I've ever worked in. And so I'm probably happier now than I've ever been, or I might have ever been. But I think possibly I would have explored music a little more deeply. I mean, you can see my guitars on the wall there. I never play them. They mock me daily, but I think that I would have become a professional musician had I not done this. And probably struggled as much or more. So I think about what could have been, but I'm so happy with what is that I concentrate my efforts more on that. And I think that makes me a happier person. At Makisho asks, did you have a time where you dealt with depression? And if so, how did you overcome it? Yeah, I've dealt with depression throughout a pretty large amount of my life, I would say, especially in my earlier years. I was bullied a lot. I always felt like I wasn't very good at anything. I was just average. I always felt like I was very average for most of my life. And I don't know if that clinically made me depressed, but I certainly wasn't very happy about it. And what really got me through it was meditation and positive thinking. And I really started concentrating on what worked in my life. That really seemed to help. Instead of concentrating on what wasn't working for me, I concentrate on what I was good at. You find your skills and you start developing that. And you find happy people in your life and you start hanging around them. And my friend Logic always starts his concerts out talking about peace, love, and positivity, which is an unusual thing for hip-hop artists to do. But it's really true to have that mindset of peace, love, and positivity, and especially gratitude. That can pull you right out of depression. So I would start with that and just do a mantra of gratitude every day. If you're depressed, find something to be thankful for and concentrate on that. And by law of attraction, that will grow in your life. Great questions, guys. R. Tengden asks, is there a product or character you wish you could have been in or done? No, not really. I'm so lucky that I've gotten to work on what I've worked on so far. I've talked about this a lot before, that I just can't even imagine stuff that I haven't worked on. And I've mentioned in the past that, maybe I would have made a good Batman just because that's sort of in my vocal wheelhouse. But the guys who play Batman are brilliant at it, so there's nothing better that I could have done. So no, I'm pretty happy with the way things have been going. So thanks for your questions, guys. Great round this time, and we'll do this again. This was kind of fun, especially for you guys who can't make it to the cons. It's fun for me, and I hope it's fun for you. And I'll see you next time on The Bloom Room. Peace, love, and positivity. Bang.
Nice. Thank you, as always, Steve, for your efforts in the Bloom Room, and thank you all for watching. That's it for us today.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next week, and tune in Saturday night at midnight for the Toonamis. Bye.